Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This one is team selection for game week 20. So as always, we'll have a quick look at how I got on in game week 19. Then we'll look at my team for game week 20 and talk about my future transfer plans. And we'll also touch on some Bowen replacements and some Cunha replacements. But to start with, game week 19, 91 points for my team. That is a game week rank of 685k, and that gives me an overall rank of 93k. So for the first time, I'm into the top 100k this season. It's a green arrow from 143k to 93k, so really happy with it. I mean, the team did very well this week. I've just realised I haven't updated Palmer's numbers there, but he got 2 points. So that's all we need to know about that. The bench scored plenty of points. I got 20 points on my bench, and Buemo with 7 points. It was actually kind of tight between whether I was going to play him or Semenyo. I've got this wrong a few times now, but only a 2-point swing in it this week, luckily. Then Castan with 1 point. I nearly made transfers that meant I was going to play him, and it would have been instead of Lewis. I would have sold Lewis, so that went kind of well. And then Lewis Hall, I was actually never considering even playing him. I think I've just kind of underestimated how bad United are, so that kind of needs to change in my head maybe. But yeah, I was never actually considering playing him before the game week, so I'm not too annoyed about those 12 points. But yeah, Verbruggen 2 points. As always, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I really don't care about goalkeeper blanks. I'm just glad that I'm not spending money on the position. Again, if I'd have someone like Raya, for example, this week, he blanked, and I'd be annoyed because I'm spending more money on that position, whereas I'm spending as little as possible. So I'm expecting blanks. Anything more than a blank is a bonus. So yeah, 2 points once again for Verbruggen. Rico Lewis with 6 points. Now, it was actually kind of a bit lucky that City kept that clean sheet. They weren't great. Leicester probably should have scored, but we take the 6 points and we run. Munoz with 2 points. He was disappointing, to be honest. He missed a big chance. And in general, Southampton at home I thought was just a good fixture. I brought him in this week. Now, defenders-wise, before we get into that, my moves were Bruno Fernandes to Eze, and then Anderson from Fulham to Munoz. Now, all week my plan was to actually do Bruno to Eze still, but then my plan was to do Lewis to Munoz, which would have meant that I played Castan and benched Anderson. So basically, I'm 5 points up on that move. So that one has kind of worked out. I'm glad about that. Then we have Trent Alexander-Arnold with 15 points. The haul was coming. You could see it. If you watched any Liverpool game, you just knew how involved he was, and you could see that a big points haul was about to come. And it did. A goal, a clean sheet, and 3 bonus points to get 15 points. So really happy with that. Then Semenyo with 5 points. Now, this one is ridiculous luck. I have no idea how he's been given the assist. If you haven't watched it, check out the highlights, and you will just be amazed that he's been given an assist for this. However, we take the points and we run. Same as Lewis. Got a bit lucky in some of these situations this week, but that's what you need sometimes. Eze, this wasn't luck. This was a good transfer. Bruno Fernandes to Eze. A lot of people went for the cheaper Sarr. Also a very good option. Still is a very good option. But I decided to go for Eze. His minutes have looked good since coming back from this injury. So really happy that he managed a goal and 10 points. Also really happy that he managed another 80-something minutes, which is good for the future. As I mentioned, I haven't updated Palmer's points annoyingly, but he got 2 points. Not much to say about it. Chelsea got done by Ipswich, to be honest. They weren't great. Maresca obviously rotated, which we'll get into when we talk about Jackson, but yeah, not ideal. And then Salah keeps doing what Salah does. That game, so it was close for captaincy. If you've watched my captaincy video last week, you'll know that was actually a close one between Salah and Palmer. I think I probably ended up on Salah just because of maybe even anti-West Ham bias. I'm a West Ham fan, and I knew that we had a load of players missing. I know that we're just terrible in general. So I think that I just expected Liverpool to absolutely dominate us. So, and Liverpool were kind of more predictable as such than Chelsea at the moment. So yeah, went with Salah. Huge swing when it's just really unlucky if you went for Palmer because it was very close. Isak 7 points. He just keeps ticking along. He keeps scoring goals. Newcastle have been really good recently. Really good. So I'm glad I've got Isak in. I'm glad I've got Hall, albeit I'm probably benching him again this week. Then we'll get on to Jackson in a minute. João Pedro with 9 points. A lot of people sold João Pedro this week, and I really don't understand why. Similar to Semenyo, he wasn't getting points, but he's just got everything you want. He's like 5.7 or 5.6 million, so he's ridiculously cheap. He's playing really good minutes, which is usually the one thing that we don't see with João Pedro. He is on penalties. Brighton, admittedly, haven't been the best recently, but they're a good team, and I back them to turn it around, and I just back that they will continue to score goals. And the fixtures aren't even that bad. This week's fixture isn't great, but I can bench him. So I just don't see the need to sell João Pedro. I think you could even buy him. He's probably a good Cunha replacement. We'll get onto the Cunha replacements, but I just think João Pedro is really good. Then Jackson. So there was a chance that he was going to be rested and rotated for this game, and that is what happened. However, I don't see that happening long term, to be honest. We'll talk about him a bit more when we get onto Cunha replacements, because we'll talk about forwards in general. But yeah, I'm not too worried about keeping him. Okay, on to my team for game week 20 now, and we've got the goalkeepers and defenders on screen. Goalkeeper wise is pretty bad this week. Fabianski's got Man City away and he's probably injured, and then Verbruggen's got Arsenal at home, so both terrible fixtures, but hey, maybe that means we'll get some save points, if nothing else. Again, I'm not going to use a transfer on it. There is a world where I have thought about using a transfer on it. The transfer would be Verbruggen to Pickford. I'll be doing Verbruggen to Pickford at some point within the next 4 or 5 game weeks. So there is a world where I could have done it this week. However, the fixture for Everton really isn't that much better. They play Bournemouth, and Bournemouth are one of the best attacks in the league this season, so I just don't think it's worth the transfer this week. Like I say, I will be doing that move at some point because Everton have a double game week around 24 or 25, but it's probably just not worth it at this point, and when I can roll instead. Now, in defence, we have Lewis Hall with West Ham at home. That's obviously a really good fixture. City have been pretty bad recently. They still haven't turned it around. But all the time Lewis is starting, I just think he's a pretty good option. Especially as City at the moment have good fixtures. I could move him on to someone. I've got plenty of money in the bank. It just doesn't feel like the right week to do it, to be honest. So I'll be sticking with him probably. Then we've got Castan with Ipswich at home. One of the fixtures I wanted him for. He'll definitely be starting for me this week. So there's not much more to say about that really. Just a great fixture. And he's been ridiculously attacking. Fulham seem to have moved to this back 5 situation where Robinson and Castan are wing backs. And that's been brilliant for both of them. So yeah, definitely starting him. Then we got Trent against Man United. Again, not much more to say about it. Trent will play in my team every single week. I will almost never bench him. So that's Trent. Munoz is on the bench with Chelsea at home. I don't hate the fixture because Munoz is so attacking. It's the same with, well, all my defenders, maybe but Lewis. They're all ridiculously attacking, so I don't actually hate playing any of them in any fixture. Because Munoz, albeit Chelsea will probably score, Munoz has that attacking threat. So I wouldn't hate if I had to play him over Rico Lewis. And the same can be said with Hall, to be honest. I expect Tottenham to score because Tottenham attack is good, but I also expect Newcastle to score quite a few goals in this game. Tottenham defence is woeful, so again, I don't hate if I had to play Hall, but he's just got the worst fixture out of all of them, so that is what it is. That is my defence. Now, moving on to the midfield, we have Salah with Man United at home. Now, Man United at the moment is obviously a great fixture to target. They haven't scored in the last 3 games. They've conceded at least 2 goals in all of these 3 games. And Liverpool typically absolutely batter Man United. So, happy with him. He will be my captain. I haven't got a captain graphic on screen, annoyingly, but he will be my captain. If you've watched my captaincy video, you'll know that Salah is the one to go for this week. Do check it out anyway, though. I list the top 10 players in my captaincy model, so it's pretty interesting. But Salah is top this week. Eze has Chelsea at home. Not the best fixture. Chelsea defence isn't the best though, so I don't hate having to play Eze this week. Then Semenyo has Everton at home. Again, this is another reason why I didn't want to do Verbruggen to Pickford this week, because I'm playing Semenyo. That would mean that I've got an attacker against my goalkeeper, which limits my ceiling for points. So I'd rather not do that move this week when I don't need to. Then we have Parma with Crystal Palace away. It's not ideal that I've got so many players in this fixture, especially as they're not all on the same team. So I've got Eze, I've got Parma, and you'll see him in. I've got Jackson, who we'll talk about. But that game could have goals. Chelsea always tend to score goals, albeit they didn't against Ipswich. Generally they do. They're a good attack. So I'll definitely be playing him. I'm not worried about him at all. I won't be captaining him though. Then we've got Mbeumo of Southampton at home. This is the reason, or one of the big reasons I kept Mbeumo, was this fixture. Now, last week I had the decision whether to sell Bruno Fernandes or Mbeumo. Both had, well, Bruno Fernandes didn't have a fixture in Gameweek 19 because he was suspended. Mbeumo had Arsenal, which wasn't the best. But this week is why I kept Mbeumo, because Bruno Fernandes has Liverpool, obviously, and Mbeumo has Southampton away. So he's the reason I kept him, and he just seems to continually perform no matter who it's against. He got a goal against Arsenal. The opposition doesn't seem to matter too much. So he will be in my team for now. I'll talk about transfer plans in a second, because he could be leaving or he could be staying. But for now, let's move on to the forwards. And as I mentioned, it is Jackson up top. I'm not worried about Jackson. A lot of people are selling Jackson. It was similar to João Pedro last week. I just don't particularly get the reasoning for it. Again, we'll look at Cunha replacements in a bit, where we'll talk about forwards in more detail. So I'll leave the conversation on Jackson until then, but I'm happy with him in my team. Isak plays Tottenham away. Tottenham defence is a mess, as I mentioned, so very happy to have him. He, again, is actually quite high up my captaincy model, so if you wanted to go differential on captaincy, I don't mind Isak this week. And then on the bench, we've got João Pedro with Arsenal at home. Again, I wouldn't mind if I had to play him, to be honest, because João Pedro has got, like I mentioned earlier, he's got everything you want from a forward. On penalties, good minutes, Brighton attack isn't bad, and he's cheap, so, but I don't need to play him. I've got players with better fixtures this week, so I'm fine with benching him. I'm also fine with keeping him. Next week he's got Ipswich, I believe, so definitely want him for that fixture. Anyway, that's how I'm lined up. So when I'm thinking about transfers, obviously I mentioned that at some point I'll be doing Verbruggen to Pickford for their double in 24 or 25. For the same reason, I'll also be doing a defender to Mikalenko before game week 24 or 25. I don't feel the need to do that yet. All my defenders are fine for now. It will probably be Lewis that makes way when the time comes, but I won't be doing that just yet. I have got 3 free transfers, so I can roll this week and potentially next week. But the move I will be looking at next week is Mbeumo to Bruno Fernandes. Now, I'm slightly more put off this move than I was earlier in the week. If you watch my transfer plans video, you'll know I mentioned it. But so the reason being is that after this week, Mbeumo plays City and Liverpool, I think, in the next 2. The fixtures do get a bit better again from game week 24, but the next 2 after this are City and Liverpool. And the opposite can be said with Bruno. So Bruno plays Liverpool this week. He then plays Southampton next week in game week 21. And then he's got a few quite nice fixtures as well. I think Brighton are in there, maybe Spurs as well. So the move would be Mbeumo to Bruno Fernandes. However, I am slightly put off this move now just because of how bad United are. I mean, United haven't been that great this season, but Bruno Fernandes at points has been really good. I mean, I captained him when he got his 17-point haul, and he's kind of ticked along. Since Amrim's come in, he's been a little bit better as well. But recently, United have been really bad. It doesn't look great there at the moment. The opposite can be said for Brentford. They are just generally playing quite well. They've had bad fixtures and they're still ticking along. So I may not do that transfer and I may just keep Mbeumo. I'll decide on that next week. But for this week, I'm just going to roll my transfer. I've got plenty of bench cover. So let's now get on to having a look at Bowen Replacements and Cunha Replacements. Right, so we're going to look at Bowen Replacements first. Now, it's probably no surprise, but the player that I brought in last week is in this list. So Eze is a fantastic buy. This week is probably not the week to do it if you don't have to. If you can bench Bowen and just play your other 7 attackers this week, or you've got 4 good defenders, then there's no reason to not do that, because Eze has Chelsea at home this week. Not a fixture that I'd be worried about playing him in. I've got him in my team, as you've just seen, and I'm playing him this week. I think it's fine, but there will be teams and players with better fixtures. However, after game week 20, the fixtures are brilliant. Leicester away, fantastic. West Ham away, fantastic. Brentford at home, fantastic. Brentford defence isn't all that, especially when they're playing away from home. Then it's Man United, who, admittedly, it's 5 game weeks time, so things could have changed by then. But at the moment, they're a team to target, to be honest. Wolves have put 2 past them, and Newcastle and Bournemouth have both battered them as well. So their fixtures are great, and I do think Eze is worth the extra funds over Sarr. Don't get me wrong, they're both very, very good options with those fixtures. If you can get both, then fantastic. The double up is really nice with Munoz in defence. I do think Eze is just worth the extra though. I don't think the minutes are even that much of an issue. Sarr just seems to play really good minutes at the moment. It's more that when Mateta's not on the pitch, which does happen, Glasner's told us that Mateta isn't going to play 90 minutes every game, then Eze will be on penalties. Admittedly, that's not going to be for a long period of time in every game, because Mateta will still play a good amount of minutes each game, so there's only a small period where Eze will be definitely on penalties. But also, when Mateta's on the pitch, there is actually a chance that Eze still takes a penalty. Admittedly, Mateta took the last penalty and scored it, so the chances are Mateta will be taking the next penalty, but there is a chance. Anyway, Eze is great. Next up, Anthony Gordon. Now, we talked about him and Martinelli last week when we were looking at Bruno Fernandes replacements. Newcastle are playing incredibly well at the moment. They're on some proper hot streak, and their fixtures just keep getting better as well. Tottenham away is red per the FPL website, but for an attacker, that should be green. Tottenham defence is in shambles at the moment, so that fixture is a green fixture. Wolves at home is a good fixture. Bournemouth at home is probably rightly an orange fixture. Bournemouth are pretty good. Southampton is a green fixture, and again, Fulham at home is probably an orange fixture. They're pretty good defensively as well, but for these next 5 weeks, the fixtures are pretty good, and Newcastle are just playing really well at the moment, so I like Gordon. Then there's Martinelli. I think he, out of all the Arsenal attackers, benefits most from Saka being out. I think that he will, more often than not, play on that right hand side where Saka plays. Now, I didn't watch the game against Brentford. Martinelli obviously scored. I presume that the setup was Jesus through the middle, Martinelli left, and Nwaneri on the right. So we will see Nwaneri playing on the right, if that's where he played, which I presume he did. We will see that happening, but I do think that we still see Jesus through the middle, Martinelli on the right, and Trossard on the left. I still think that happens. I think Martinelli gets minutes regardless. We've seen tonight, even when he's not going to play on the right, he'll play on the left because he's playing very well at the moment. He's playing better than Trossard at the moment. So I do think he gets very good minutes with Saka out, and at 6.8 million, I think that's an absolute bargain. The fixtures are a bit of a mixed bag. Brighton away is okay. Tottenham at home, again, this is not a red fixture for an attacker, it's green. Aston Villa at home, again, it's okay. Wolves is a good fixture. City, who knows where they'll be at in 5 weeks' time. But the fixtures are just pretty good. So for 6.8 million, I really like Martinelli. So Matthias Cunha has finally picked up his ban. It's a 2-game ban, which means he misses game week 20 and he misses the FA Cup fixture for Wolves. So he's back in game week 21. However, he did go off with what looked like an injury at half time in the game against Spurs. And also, Wolves' fixtures from game week 21 onwards are pretty horrible. So you're going to want to sell Cunha regardless. Now, replacements wise, there isn't a great deal. The forward kind of pool at the moment isn't the best. So there's going to be some unpopular ones here. I don't think Jackson's going to be particularly popular, and I don't think João Pedro is going to be particularly popular, but we'll talk through them. I think we can all agree that Chris Wood is brilliant. So Wolves away, Liverpool at home, not the best. Southampton at home, great. And then Bournemouth and Brighton, okay fixtures. So the fixtures are kind of pretty good besides that Liverpool one. He shouldn't get rotated too much. There isn't really too many midweek, game week fixtures coming up. And he's on penalties. Nottingham Forest are playing incredible right now. There isn't much to dislike about Chris Wood, so I do think he is a great replacement for Cunha. Then we'll talk about João Pedro. So we mentioned him a little bit in my team selection part of this video. Arsenal at home isn't the best fixture. It's not a great game week to be jumping on to João Pedro, which a lot of people that are coming off of Cunha will need him this week. So I understand if João Pedro is not the player to go to. But afterwards, it's Ipswich away, good fixture. Man United away, probably is a good fixture still. Man United are a bit of a mess. Everton at home is quite good, and Forest away is okay. So pretty good fixtures in the short term. And as I mentioned before, he's on penalties. He's getting good minutes. The main attraction for him, though, is that he's 5.7 million. That's an absolute bargain. So it can, if you're going down from Cunha, that's over $1 million that you're gaining that you can use elsewhere. If you need to get something up to Trent, for example, then João Pedro is the best budget forward to be going for right now. Nicholas Jackson, obviously he was benched against Ipswich. Now, it's not that much of a surprise, I don't think. We kind of saw it a few weeks ago when Chelsea played Southampton and he was benched then. That was a midweek game week. This one obviously wasn't a midweek game week, but there was a short turnaround from the previous fixture. So we have seen it when there's short turnarounds. However, this time it really didn't work. Obviously, Chelsea lost against Ipswich, which is a pretty bad thing. I mean, Chelsea don't look good. Whenever Nkunku is up front for them, they don't look good. And I think Maresca's even said that Nkunku isn't a striker. So it's not particularly surprising that they don't look good when he is playing striker. I don't think that we'll see Jackson get rotated too much again. They don't have a short turnaround again for a while. Game week 21 and 22 is a midweek game week, but Chelsea play on the Tuesday and then they don't play until the following Monday. So they've got a better turnaround than most teams. So I don't think we need to worry about that. It's not till game week 27 that there's then another midweek game week. And interestingly, that fixture is also against Southampton, like it was a few weeks ago. So I don't think we see Jackson get rested or benched until at least game week 27. And Chelsea are top 3 attacks in the league with the likes of Liverpool and either Spurs or Bournemouth, depending on what statistic you're looking at. But they're one of the best attacks in the league. Jackson is just good. His underlying numbers are good. The one thing that there isn't to like about Jackson is that his minutes aren't the best. Even when he does start games, which is most games, he doesn't play 90. He'll come off around the 75-minute mark quite a lot. So that is one reason to dislike him. He's not on penalties, whereas other players are, like João Pedro, like Wood, like quite a lot of strikers, to be honest. But I just think he's part of a good attack and he'll get enough minutes to be a good option. So I really like him. He's going nowhere in my team. He's now not got the 5 yellow card thing hanging over his head. That's now reset, so he can get another yellow card without getting banned. So for me, these are the 3 best replacements. Another short-term option is Watkins while Duran is out, because Aston Villa has some great fixtures. They've got Leicester this week, so if you need someone this week and you can afford Watkins, I don't mind that. And obviously Gabriel Jesus right now is looking like he is going to get good minutes in that striker slot for Arsenal. So they're the only players I'd really consider, if I'm honest. Like I say, the forward pool at the moment isn't the biggest, but these are the ones I'll be looking at. So yeah, that's all for this one. If you've got any comments on replacements or your team, my team, then drop them in the comments. Do give this video a like, do hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.